Norris created a centenary celebration of Edith Sitwell for performance at this year's Brighton Festival. And tonight, part of it will be repeated for us by Mr. OWEN NORRIS and his partners JUDITH, REES and Peter Savage. It offers a sort of collage of what she was, what she thought, what she wrote. There are glimpses of Facade, her entertainment of poems set to music by the young William Walton, which provoked a minor scandal when it was first performed publicly in 1923. And we meet the egocentric Russian painter Pavel Chelychev, who for 30 years happily accepted her patronage, her money and her love, and gave her very little in return. But we begin with another poem, one of her greatest, and one which was to foreshadow her conversion to Catholicism, Still Falls the Rain. It was written in 1940.
Dark as the world of man, black as our loss, blind as the 1940 nails upon the cross. Still falls the rain, with a sound like the pulse of the heart that is changed to the hammer beat in the potter's field, and the sound of the impious feet on the tomb. Still falls the rain. In the field of blood where the small hopes breed and the human brain nurtures its greed, that worm with the brow of Cain. Still falls the rain. At the feet of the starved man hung upon the cross, Christ that each day, each night nails there, have mercy on us, on Dives and on Lazarus. Under the rain, the sore and the gold are as one. Still falls the rain. Still falls the blood from the starved man's wounded side. He bears in his heart all wounds, those of the light that died, the last faint spark in the self-murdered heart, the wounds of the sad, uncomprehending dark. The wounds of the baited bear, the blind and weeping bear whom the keepers beat on his helpless flesh, the tears of the hunted hare. Still falls the rain. Then, oh, I leap up to my God. Who pulls me down? See, see where Christ's blood streams in the firmament. It flows from the brow we nailed upon the tree, deep to the dying, to the thirsting heart that holds the fires of the world, dark smirched with pain as Caesar's laurel crown. Then sounds the voice of one who, like the heart of man, was once a child, who among beasts has lain. Still do I love, still shed my innocent light, my blood for thee.
And what do you want to be when you grow up, little E?
A genius.
What's the matter? Why cry?
modernists are leaving the tradition that leaves from Wordsworth. Most poets are still writing in his manner and from his point of view. To these men, rhetoric and formalism are abhorrent, partly, no doubt, because to manage either quality in verse, the writer must have a certain talent for poetry. Birds are become a cult. Any mention of the nest of a singing bird throws the community into a frenzy. Dreary plaster-faced sheep with Alexandra fringes and eyes like the eyes of minor German royalties, limpid, wondering, disapproving, uncomprehending, these are admired, as are bulldogs weeping tears of blood.
Annunciata stands on the flat lands under the pear tree, jangling sweetly. See, the curé black leaves are cawing like a rook. Annunciata grieves. No young man will look at me with my harsh, jangling hair, pink as the one pair, a flapping crude fish, tinsel pink, flapping across the consciousness like laughter, and my tattered dress. Then, from the brink of the deep well, sounding like a bell, from the castles under water, the old men seek the beggar's daughter. Some were wrinkled grey, from suicide grown gay and smiling. Some were seen with ivy limbs green and gnarled like the water. Dance a pavan, beggar's daughter. They wooed her with book, and the water's tuneless bell wooed her as well, a water-hidden sound achieves. And cawing like a rook were the curé black leaves. One feather breast of dew was grey upon round leaves. They fled away. Only a moaning sound from the castles that lie drowned beneath the fruit boughs of the water reached the beggar's daughter.
Osbert and Sashi and I are extremely displeased when we are treated as if our works were a mass production. We do not like to be treated as if we were an aggregate Indian god with 3 sets of arms and legs, but otherwise indivisible. It vulgarizes and cheapens everything. We are individual artists, and the fact that we are 2 brothers and a sister is the business of no one else considering our work.
She is a daughter of Sir George, the famous eccentric, and the young school of poetry look upon her as their high priestess. They are, in poetry, what the post-impressionists and cubists are in painting. Very hard to make head or tail of what they write. It is really to make the bourgeoisie sit up. And with the Sitwells, there is always a vein of humour, wanting to see how far they can gull the public. It is the latest and the newest school, but nothing will come of it. They are really quite nice and amusing young people, if only they would not write poetry.
During both entr'actes of Gerald Berner's ballet, I noticed a tall, desperately thin, desperately anxious-looking young man circling round me, staring at me as if he had seen a ghost.
My dear, she lives in a positive slum. I call her flat a tenement. It is up 5 stories and stone steps. I got there, panting. A respectable sort of maid let me in and showed me into the sitting room. Edith mountainously rose at me. She was dressed in some sort of furnishing material, unhooked at the back at intervals. She was extremely nice, and I tried my best to be intelligent. The tea consisted of tea and farthing buns. The room is filthily furnished. You never saw such coverings to sofa and armchairs, and the walls are plastered with paintings and drawings by a Russian, who, she told me, with a suspicion of girlish coyness, was her greatest friend.
A taxi drew up, and out flew Pavlik Chelichev, waving his arms in the air, then dancing back to help Edith alight. Crossing the courtyard of the pavilion, he made several leaps into the air, ending with a pirouette. He possessed the gaiety of a child. Edith blushed with pleasure at the sight of him. Tra-la-la-la-la-la-la! See me dance the polka, said Mr. Wag like a bear. With my top hat and my whiskers that tra-la-la-la trapped the fair. Where the waves seem chiming haycocks, I dance the polka. There stand Venus children in their gay frocks, maroon and marine, and stare to see me fire my pistol. Through the distance blue is my coat. Like Wellington, Byron, the Marquis of Bristol, buzzed great trees float. While the wheezing hurdy-gurdy of the marine wind blows me to the tune of Annie Rooney sturdy over the sheafs of the sea. And bright as a seedsman's packet with zinnias candytuft's chill is Mrs. Marigold's jacket as she gapes at the indoor still. When at dawn in the box of a sailor, blue is the decks of the sea, Nelson awoke, crowed like the cocks, then back to the dust sank he. And Robinson Crusoe, Rousseau, the bright and foxy veer. But he finds fresh isles and a negress smiles, the poxy doxy dear. As they watch me dance the polka, said Mr. Wag like a bear, in my top hat and my whiskers that tra-la-la-la trap the fair. Tra-la-la-la-la-la, tra-la-la-la-la-la, tra-la-la-la-la-la-la-la.
I hope Lady Fitzherbert has bought a picture. She has well over £3,000 a year and nobody to consider but herself. Lord Berners will be most useful as he is a rich man who knows everybody and is an enormous admirer of Pavlik's.
What? Alone with Edith? What do you want, ma chère? I should be raped?
I did not need this extra blow to convince me, to prove to me, that Pavlik has lost any affection he once had for me, if indeed he ever had any. When he has been betrayed by the last of the cheap, worthless people by whom he is so dazzled, perhaps he will realize the kind of friendship that mine is, and with what loving care I have watched over him and tried to help him in his worries and comfort him. But who knows that it will not then be too late?
You
Dearest Pavlik, I have tried for weeks to write to you, but it has been too sad and too difficult. I wish now only to say that I must, of course, accept your decision to end a friendship that has lasted nearly a quarter of a century. You will never see me again.
Comfort the lonely light and the sun in its sorrow. Come like the night, for terrible is the sun as truth, and the dying light shows only the skeleton's hunger for peace. Under the flesh like the summer rose. Come through the darkness of death, as once through the branches of youth you came, through the shade of the flowering door that leads into paradise. Far from the street you, the unborn city seen by the homeless, the night of the poor. You walk in the city ways where man's threatening shadow, red edged by the sun, like Cain has a changing shade. Elegant like the skeleton, armed like the tiger, with the age of wisdom and aptness of the age. The pulse that beats in the heart is changed to the hammer that sounds in the potter's field, where they build a new world from a bone, and the carrion bird days foul droppings and clamor. But you are my night and my peace, the holy night of conception, of rest, the consoling darkness when all men are and the rich and the poor are no longer separate nations. They are brothers in night. Listen to the song I heard, but the bowl is silent. Who knows if the sound was that of the dead night calling, of Caesar rolling onward his heart, that stone, or the burden of Atlas falling.
What an exciting world it was when the three of us were young together. Even in trouble for being young and having talent. Well, it is over now, long ago, and will never be again. Let me hear the barrel organ that played on Saturday afternoons in Moscow Road. It matters not how banal the tune, let it be when Irish eyes are smiling, and I am back with you on a blazing June evening in 1921 or 1922. There seemed to be a new poem of yours to read to us almost every time we came to see you and climbed the 4 double flights of stone stairs up to your flat. Poems in a vein of fantasy invented for yourself and all your own, like nothing else before or since.
Talking once more neath a swan-bosom tree.
Those castles, Tourelle,
Those bustles,
where swells each foam bell of ermine, they roam and determine what fashions have been,
and what fashions will be,
what tartan leaves born,
what crinolines worn.
by Queen Thetis, pelisses of tarlety, blue like the thin plaided leaves that the castle crags grew, or velour d'Affront on the water god's land. Her hair seemed gold trees on the honey-cell
Sand
where the thickest gold spangles on deep water seem,
were like twanging guitar,
and like cold mandolin, and the nymphs of great caves
with hair like gold waves.
of Venus wore tarlety, Louise and Charlottine,
Boreas daughters,
and the nymphs of deep waters, the nymph Talione,
Grisy the Ondine,
where plaided Victoria and thin Clementine like the crinolined waterfalls. Wood nymphs wear bonnets,
Shawls.
elegant parasols floating are seen.
The Amazons wear balzarine of jonquil beside the blonde lace of a deep-falling rill.
Through glades like a nun, they run from and shun the enormous and gold-rayed rustling sun.
And the nymphs of the fountains descend from the mountains like elegant willows on their deep barouche pillows.
In Kashmir, Alvanda, Barrette, Isabel, like bells of bright water from clearest wood well.
Are elegant, favouring bonnets of blonde,
The stars in their apiaries,
sylphs in their aviaries,
seeing them spangle these ambassadors fond from their aviaries fern.
with each long fluid hand,
The manteau espagnol mimic the waterfalls over the long and the light summer land. So Daisy and Lily
lazy and silly,
walk by the shore of the one grassy sea.
talking once more neath a swan-bosom tree.
Rose castles, Tourelle,
Those bustles,
Morel of the shade in their train follow.
ladies, how they hollow.
Gone is the sweet swallow.
Gone, Philomel.
a celebration of Edith Sitwell, performed by Judith REES, Peter Savage, and David Owen Norris.